Okay, here we go. On we, okay.
We are
right.
tired.
Yeah. Just a little tired. I don't know if it was that long of a day. I just did some shopping. But yeah, welcome everybody to another exciting installment of the Terrorisk podcast. It's
Hello,
pretty
friends, lovers, romantics.
souls.
cunts.
Souls. What's up, souls? My souls. It's a pretty muggy day, but all things considered, I think everything is pretty stable. Shit. I forgot. It's been a while since I filmed because I've had a backlog of a bunch of episodes that I've just been saving up. So yeah, let's see. What's new with you, man?
Nothing much really. Just trying to get through the summer.
Get through the summer.
Get through the summer. Yeah, my hours are reduced halfway, so I'm not getting paid enough right now. I don't have enough hours, pretty much for now.
I think you should not. You should try to still enjoy the summer despite it not working out for you job-wise.
I have a 6-day mini vacation coming up after tomorrow. I'm probably gonna do a lot of busking and trying to find good spots because I found out I can play by the ferry, make good money. Might try to find a couple spots, but the beach is getting nicer, so I want to be going down to the beach. I think back to the beach is gonna happen. Want to get that done and go down there when there's hundreds of people walking around on the beach. So I'm excited for the beach times. It's my first whole full summer back in New York since 7 years.
I spent all of last summer partying at the beach in Brooklyn. That's a fucking awesome place. It's crazy. Have you ever been out there?
No, I've been to Coney Island. I want to go to a different beach. I like seeing different beaches.
Like Howard Beach.
I'll go to any beach. Beaches are my shit. The beach is my favorite place. It's where all the elements meet. Earth, water, fire, and air all are out there, most rawest nature, and they all kiss and meet. The wind drags the water. The sun's beaming down the water and the sand. It all kind of, just meets right there. It's
Cool. What does it make you feel like when you're in that environment?
makes me feel free. And just 'cause to me, my parents have been taking me up because we live right there. They've been taking me up to that beach since I was 3 years old. So it's kind of like a comfort thing for me. I always feel better at the beach. That's why I wrote the fucking whole song about the beach. The beach is my favorite place. If I'm feeling bad, it's like I can take my pain and emotions. If I go by the water, it's like I'm sending it out into the water, and the wave is taking it and dragging it back. I'm like, it's a release for me. I'm releasing my inner bullshit when I go to the beach.
It sounds like
It's the most spiritual place for me. If I was gonna do any time I've tripped on mushrooms, the beach was the best place to be. I've had the most mind-blowing God experience on acid ones on the beach, and I wasn't even high anymore. It was 12 hours after I took this acid. You don't go to sleep. It's hard to fall asleep on acid. So we're at my friend's house, and me and Alex Salinger walked to the beach, and the sun is just starting to rise. And there's a big, you can't see the sun or the water yet because it's a big little hill of sand. And we smoked a little joint. Hold on. So we smoked a joint. Almost dropped that cherry, sorry. And the little kid in me decided to run towards the water. I just felt like something compelled me to just get up, run towards the water. So I just got up abruptly while smoking the joint. And Alex said, "Where are you going?" And I got to the end, and the sun was just you can see half the sun, and it's just open water, the sun in the middle, and the sand, and the sun is gleaming, and there's a big boom, sunbeam on the wet sand, making it golden the way as the sun was rising, and it was this golden beam I was standing in, and I looked up like this, and then I also got a view of what I was looking up at, viewing down at me. So as I was looking up at the sky was looking at me, and I was the sky looking at me, and and I just felt the most peaceful feeling I've ever felt, and I just slowly walked back to where Alex was, and I was it was like God, it was like me and God were hey, I remember you, but God was also part of me. It was like me, a higher version of me looking down at me, hey, Brandon, I see what you're doing, hey, checking in with the higher self for a second, then going back, but it was the best experience that I've had on acid.
Yeah, I think that whole thing of your higher self. I think when you do tap into, well, not through drugs, but I want to say organically, if you get to that perspective organically through like, you know, a combination of experiences and reflections, I think what ends up happening is, you know, when you start seeing from the perspective of your quote unquote higher self and all that shit, it's really hard to talk about because like just simply talking about stuff with other people, it's already predicated on all these like material conditions, you know, like who my parents were, who I was born as, you know, how much money I have, what my race is, how old I am, you know, like that's all bullshit. That's all has to do with the material, like the material world. And honestly, if you could see past that, then you get to a point where it's like, dude, this is like Chris. There is no Chris. There is no Bren. Like our physical selves are just like literal, just physical manifestations. These are just tools. Like our brains and our bodies are just tools for our souls to be able to experience this world.
Yeah.
It's like a ride. Like our brains and our bodies are like the virtual reality glasses that lets you play in Planet Earth 3D. You know, like.
And sometimes you're in the game, so like, you know, I'll even now I'll create a character in an RPG, and when something happens to that character, it's almost like I identify so much with it at that point because I'm playing it so much that it hurts me. So like, kind of like that, like.
But that's a trick. That's the illusion, right?
That's the illusion.
And you see how like it's actually it is the source of all like suffering, because like it's true. Like once you understand that like our individualities, our separation, it's all fake. That's all an illusion. That's all material illusion. Even reality itself, it's like now physicists are coming out and saying like, yeah, matter isn't actually what we think it is. It's really just all energy. It's all patterns of energy. Like, we've been lied to basically as to thinking our entire world is just like a physical manifestation of cause and effect when it's really not. It's actually just like it's manifestations of patterns, frequencies. It's all energy. Everything's fucking energy. And this is proven, like, especially with like, you know, a lot of like developments in like the fields of quantum physics and shit like that. It's showing us that a lot of the conventional rules that we were raised on and like made to believe in like so many frameworks of reality just based on like simple physics that just weren't really true this whole time.
Actually, one of my favorite parts of an ending of a shroom trip is being the higher self and like knowing like, okay, you know, it's almost like Brendan's like this little like character toy that was made up. And it doesn't matter what happens to Brendan at this point because Brendan's not me. If I die or what I thought was me died, that's okay. That you can restart if you want to. But like my favorite part was always, it's almost like the higher self was telling me, okay, listen, you know, it might be an hours or a day from now, but you're going to go back and you're going to believe you're Brendan again. And I started cracking up laughing. It was the most hilarious thing to me to know like, okay, you're going to go back, though. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go back. We're going to go back to thinking of Brendan again. It was exciting going back to the ego again almost because I'm like, because I went into it at first. In the first place, it was for a reason. You know, you want to think you're this person. It's a part of it. You know, it's a part of the lesson. You can't really learn what it feels like to be mortal or the idea of being a mortal body, you know, unless you put that illusion over yourself. Like if they had a virtual reality system that when you go in it, it makes you forget that you're in a virtual reality thing, I might try it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the same with life.
100%.
That's like what life is.
Maybe that experience is essential for more evolved forms of being. You know, to be able to grow.
Your soul has to evolve through shit like that. And ever hear like the Hindu rules of when you're deciding to be born?
Yeah.
Like the first thing is, okay, first rule, you're gonna receive your body. Second rule, you're gonna forget all of this. Third rule, you can remember anytime you want. Fourth rule, you're never gonna stop having to learn lessons while you're doing this. That's the point of this. But the fifth rule is that the lessons, like you will repeat the same lesson over and over until the lesson's learned. Mm-hmm. You know, and shit like that. And like that's a part of that's the human
karmic cycle.
Yeah, that's the karmic cycle. This is what this is. Are you down for this? Sure. I'll go another round. It's only been like 12 billion rounds.
And I can see why people find this to be dangerous. I'm not saying it's ever good to do bad, but you also inherently know, right? So
you have to be bad.
No. So look, this is what I think the main difference is when you get to that higher perspective, like when you do to get the difference between getting there from drugs, because I've done both. Like I've done many psychedelics. I've had trips, and like, you know, when I look at the difference between that and like what this is now, like back then, it's like looking back, it's like every time I tripped on shrooms or acid, I feel like I was made to see something that I wasn't ready to really understand.
You go back. You have to go back. You're not ready for it yet.
But it's like when you reach it
You're
organic.
taking a break.
So here's the difference. When you really get
You're
there,
pressing pause and going to the kitchen to get a snack.
When you know, when you get there for real though, like sincerely, I think the big difference, especially in my perspective, like from now, the big difference that from this to like the trips isn't just like the hallucination aspect. I mean,
it's probably more gradual. Like
no, it's the big difference. The biggest difference is the immediate understanding and the feeling like. The desire to service, to want to be of service to your fellow humans. Because here's the deal:
when you really feel that happen to you, and you
yes.
got a complete psychic change, kind of.
Yes, when you finally understand that that we're all connected, based off of coming from the same source. Some people call it God, some people call it life or whatever. I call it, I could call it a bunch of things. Sometimes I call it God, sometimes I call it the source, but it's the same thing.
It's not called anything in reality.
Yeah. So when we do return to that. And we realize like we all come from the same place. That's when you get overwhelmed. You overcome with this feeling of like caring for your fellow man, not in like caring about their individual identities, just caring about their souls. And then suddenly like once you view everyone else as a spiritual being, it's like. I mean, you don't want to like impose or project like your assumptions, but you get like weird feelings of like what's real. Like when they say something, when they talk about the things that are going wrong in their life, and then you could just like really like look at this person, their mannerisms, like what they do, how they live, and you're like, honestly, I could tell you exactly like why your life is like this, but I don't think that. I think you got to.
Everyone has to do go through their own process.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's on their own shit, which is why
maybe deep down, like maybe their ego is doing something that you think is wrong, but. Deep down, their consciousness, their soul, that's hidden, is saying, "I'm doing this on purpose. This is the lesson I need to learn. So my ego has to do the dumb thing for my soul to evolve."
Well, I think like the biggest impediments to this kind of like psychological and emotional evolution or growth would be is like getting locked into your thoughts, getting locked into what you think has to be and what you think you want and what you think you need, and getting caught up in your shitty little feelings and all that shit. And like, at first I was cold about it, and I realized that was wrong because I didn't know why, but I was really against like what was happening around me with all my peers, how they all would fall, like they would just like every time their life went to shit, they would always have some clinical label to slap over it and say, well, might as well be okay with it because it's just who I am and everyone's got to be okay with that. And I was like, that's just sounded like such horseshit to me from day one. But then now like, with my different perspective, it's like now it's like really not up to them. It's not up to any of us. We kind of just have to like do our absolute best to try to grow, to try to learn, to try to understand how to like actually care and care for something and love something. And that's a really hard lesson. It took me probably fucking 31 whole years to like figure that shit out.
Oh, I forgot. One of the rules was there's no mistakes. That was one of the rules of that. I think it's Hindu philosophy. There's no mistakes. That was one of the numbers. I didn't get the numbers right.
I think the real point of that would be there are no coincidences, because like all right, you were pretty much you in a sense like just seeing my Facebook post. You had like a front row seat, from when I tipped over and like just literally just topped.
Yeah, I was watching the whole thing.
Yeah, so
I was very intrigued.
So when that happened, it's like at first, when I was, because I felt it physiologically, I felt like weird shit, and I there was some other coincidental things that I could say happened, like because I remember the moment where I felt different. It was I made a post and I just kept reading it because I was like, did I really write that? Because like I said, like I think my purpose in this true purpose in this life is to spread love, and not like like romantic love or like hippie love. I mean like literally the purest objective form of love, like. Because like I understood, like the whole time I knew what love was. The only time it got confused was when other people came into the picture. But I realized I understood what love really was when I thought about swordsmanship, when I thought about like fucking making music, when I thought about like making stuff like this podcast and creating things. That's when I truly felt love. That's when I truly felt like everything's okay. I want to be just do this good and do good by everyone. Like my best self was when I was doing something that I loved. And once I was able to finally come to terms with that and identify with it and say like, I got to teach people this. I got to teach people how to love, not like love other people, like really love themselves, like in the realest way possible by doing the actual work that reflects that kind of self-love. Not just like saying words to yourself like, oh, I love this about me. I love this about, no, that's not how you fucking do it. That's just lying to yourself with extra steps. But like when you actually do love yourself, and then that's when just everything just magically comes together. So when I posted that, I felt like my brain, like my ears buzzing, and like my head was like, I thought I had a headache, but then I was like, nah, I think I'm just like buzzing out on emotions or some shit. I felt weird. And like that's when it's just like suddenly like rapidly like dominoes falling in my head, just like one after the other. Everything just made perfect sense, and I was like, holy fuck. And
Like Satori.
and dude, it was like I'm still on it, but now it's like I'm more stable about it now, because now I don't know. It's like because it's not like I have a grand purpose here. It's not like I have a crazy like movie destiny. It's like it's this very simple purpose. I just got to spread love. But it can also, I understand it's not like, it's also a very daunting task. Because like you're asking people to believe in something in a world where we're taught believing in shit is like not cool.
Or there's a lot of religion, and
unless it's what they tell us to believe in. What they tell us.
A lot of those like fake, like spiritual, like how like like it seems like nowadays like Westerners kind of took like Hindu and Buddhist philosophies, and we kind of like we have yoga class. That's not what yoga really is.
This is how I trust this, because I am completely ignorant on Buddhism, on spirituality, on religion. I am not like.
No, you've read Be Here Now.
No, I mean I skimmed through the fucking book. I didn't like go from word to word. I wasn't hanging on like word for word. Like, look, I was more into philosophy than anything. I was more into like the Socratic dialogues. I was into shit like Eastern shit, like the Art of War.
I like both. I like spirituality and philosophy. Like, I'm really into theology. Really into theology.
Actually, what was a big component to this change? It was also fear. I came into this massive, it was so fast and it was so hard. This like immediate existential stab, like to the center of my being. I went down some rabbit holes. Some conspiracy, which is why I'm not even gonna say what I saw or what I came across, because that'll defeat the purpose. The point is the shit that I discovered and I researched.
It started with the alien thing.
Yeah.
So that's how did you? I really do want to know how you came to this type of spiritual shit through, articles about like extraterrestrials.
Aliens.
How did that link to that?
Okay.
Which I guess it kind of makes sense.
No, it goes back further than that, and I'll explain that. But yeah, the alien thing triggered it, and then I went down through some like rabbit holes, and like eventually got into the topic of not aliens like extraterrestrial. Well, yeah, they call it, but I mean like interdimensional aliens, which honestly is a lot more likely and plausible if you talk about like contact and like what's been happening or what's been reported. And I also like. Ever since the Freedom of Information Act was passed, or the bill or whatever, that that forced a lot of classified documents to be open to the public, and then I also read up on a lot of that shit, and basically I learned some really spooky shit.
The darker part of this, through these like spiritual revelations and moments of Satori. What about the other side? What you looked into about like maybe Illuminati dark forces, psychic forces that people do.
We could talk about that. Yeah, I don't even mind putting it that way. You're right. Like malevolent psychic forces. If we argue that emotions can be just as powerful to affect reality,
just be people that know how energy works.
Yes, you're right.
And they're doing the right thing. Might be using sacred geometry, whatever things we might not know. Normal common man doesn't know about, and they're doing rituals.
But we used to,
and it affects the overall collective consciousness on the planet.
Mm-hmm. That's our reality.
People might actually wake up and revolt, so we have to do this fucking thing once a month, so everyone stays fucking down.
Yeah, and it could even seem like weird and incoherent, but it's actually like, I don't know. I mean, look, again, like I said,
there are groups of people out there that are trying to suppress people's spiritual growth because they keep them down there.
I think they have, and I think they do like a lot of darker shit too. I think they directly feed off of our negativity. I think there's stuff like actual syndicates of our elites running shit like child sex trafficking, sex slave trafficking rings and shit like that. I think war zones like the Ukraine war is specifically like.
You think that just creates the people that do that? They know that creates like fucking kids, right? That it creates so much negative energy. It affects the whole field.
Could be especially if they directly.
Like, what's the worst thing we can do? Fuck a kid and traumatize them
and kill them.
Yeah, probably. That might be the worst thing we can think of, and that will affect. If we do this enough, it'll affect the overall energy.
It could be the most. Also, like if you put like
maybe they don't even like doing it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If you trick like a group of people into like, look, you either do this or we're gonna ruin your life and we're gonna kill you and kill your family, and then you're like you're about to be a movie star and you're like, I just wanted to play a movie. It's like, fuck you. This is the real world. This is how this works. You're either in or you're out.
So you have to fuck this kid
and kill it. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's like a fucked up type of sacrifice.
Yeah. So this is the kind of
you gotta prove your loyalty to us.
So this is
you're in the big leagues now, buddy.
Exactly.
You made over $12 billion last year. you gotta fuck this kid and kill him.
Yep.
That's
Otherwise,
really?
otherwise, we have to end you. We have to know you're down. We have to jump you in. And this is the type of shit that I was like, kind of like, diving into, and then it got so dark and it got so plausible. That's the problem. At first it's all
Guys,
seems
if
like,
we go missing after this episode, you know what happened.
but dude, at first it seems all like conspiracy shit. And you're like, oh, let's check this out. But then you go deeper and deeper, and suddenly it looks less like. And yeah, they say there's dangers. But another reason why like I believe in this, like, because my outcome wasn't bad. This was just a really dark point of it, and then I got so fucking scared. I was terrified. I've never been scared like that before because before that shit, we're talking about like existentially horrific machinations against humankind. Like that's fucked up. It's like
beyond just human.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I'm saying.
It's not humans doing it. It's other beings.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, other dimensions.
Why not?
This is my thing. Like the same theory I think about, like, extraterrestrials might want to hurt us or take over, right? And I'm like, if you're that intelligent, right, wouldn't you be peaceful? And I also think, like, okay, if you are spiritually inept enough to understand how fucking energy and consciousness works, wouldn't you automatically be more loving instead of wanting to do the evil thing? Or do they know something that nobody else knows, that there needs to be a protagonist in this to accelerate everyone's spiritual growth? So they're doing horrible things in the name of spiritual growth. I don't know. I'm just making
my take is like,
wouldn't they be loving? Because you had your epiphany, right? You became more understanding of what love means. So those people who have those epiphanies, why would they go and do a cult shit?
Look. My take is this: if you're in such a developed civilization to such a state where, and even a fucking ape like me could kind of like see it this way. Suppose I know that there's a grand consciousness in the 5 dimension, in between the 3 dimension and 4 dimension, there's the 5th dimension, which is where God is. That's where, the creator beams out the
They say there's like 9 or 13 dimensions.
Whatever. For the sake of this, like conversation, we'll put it that way. And like, if you are at that advanced state, like, that's just your human self projecting, like, oh, shouldn't you be more loving? Because if you really think about it, and we all connect to the source eventually after death, no matter what happens, then like you start to think, it's like, so what if we make a few humans suffer? When they die, which they will, they're gonna go back to the source and everything will be honky-dory, right? We got what we needed out of their bodies, and like their soul goes back to the source, and no one can touch them. So it's like, I think if you really are that connected, it's possible that you could go to some like really anti-humanistic kind of ways of thinking, like. Hey,
if there's such thing like of an individual soul, because at that point, like, I think about like the Force, right?
Yeah.
In the older movies, you had Force ghosts, and they didn't describe how the Force works, but supposedly nobody was able to do that before Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon was able to do it with his voice. That's it. So. But the main theory is there is no death, there is the Force, meaning you are a part of the Force, but when you die,
your body dies.
Yeah, but it's not like you have your soul. You don't own the soul. You're just part of this. It's like a raindrop going back to the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not a raindrop anymore. You're a part of the whole ocean.
Yeah.
So do you think there are individual souls, or do you think you just go into the mess and you're not an individual anymore?
It's more like waking up from a dream.
But you're an individual, or are you just this one thing that everyone is?
It's like I think
you go into the oneness, or do you go into like a big valley of souls that you understand?
I think to go back to the oneness isn't to just think like a single being. So you think like there is no thinking, because you are everything. Like, and it is a conscious energy. It's a conscious energy. Clearly, it has. It's
everyone's conscious.
Yes, it has a will.
So now you're everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not. Yeah. Okay. So when you die, you don't have a soul. Now you just are the soul.
No, but you are the soul.
Yeah.
You could, because if you reconnect with it, yeah, you realize. So even if you are stuck in this meat body,
but for that time, you're not the ocean. You're a raindrop.
But you could still connect with the ocean.
Yeah.
Even while you're a raindrop, because that's the goal. I think what the grand consciousness
is to be the ocean, like. You go out as a scout, as a raindrop.
No, what it wants to experience itself and observe itself. It's like, I want to put myself in a body and like, you ever play?
Okay, I get that.
Yeah, like you ever see a video game character like put up a remote control drone, and then you control the drone and you could look at your character and you're like, oh, I'm looking at myself, right?
Yeah. Third person.
Yeah, so that's what it's seeking. It's seeking that sort of self-reflection. It's experiencing itself.
Yes. Okay. Subjectively, just like
subjectively,
Bill Hicks said.
Exactly. It's a focal point of the universe, like subjectively observing itself.
Life is a dream. We are the imagination of ourselves.
Yep.
Here's Tom with the weather.
But then it's like, but it's like when you connect with it, when you understand the connectedness, it's like, this is why I think like that whole like alien shit wasn't driving me crazy, because it took me to a very reasonable point where it's like, I look back and it's like, not just like the alien shit, but even before that, like me, like going through the things that I did, going through the breakup, going through like trying so hard in sword classes, fucking working out, fixing my diet, fucking fixing my drinking habits, taking care of my cat, like doing like just nourishing things for the soul. Suddenly it's just like, I didn't realize like my mind and body were like already good, but then like my soul was like finally like getting like aligned. And then once it was aligned, it was like, it all clicked. I was like, holy shit. So it felt like waking up. It really did. And
there's probably still a lot more waking up to go, you know.
I mean,
you're probably at the beginning of something else, you know, like.
I don't know. It's like, it's almost like time.
I don't think it ends.
It's like time loses meaning at this point, because I'm just like,
but physically it does. Like when I said I'm getting out of work in 10 minutes, you calculated that in your physical head and got into your car at a certain quote unquote time. You know, we still have to go, like, it's like we're playing. We have to go by the game's physics and rules.
Yeah.
While we're here, it's like you know, like even if I'm playing a character.
Okay.
So in a video game, he can only jump that far, and unless it's a glitch.
Okay. So
you know,
so
or I hack it.
So we can move on to the next part, which is what is it? When you, I don't want to put it this way, but it might be the most like layman's way to say it. Powers, you know, like psychic abilities, fucking using the force.
Yeah, actually, I've really heard. Okay,
there's cheat codes. There are cheat codes. They exist.
You should read Osho.
I've read some of it.
But he says like, what
there
happens
are cheat
is
codes.
sometimes you do get powers from becoming more enlightened. But you shouldn't use them. That's another trick of your ego trying to grab you back. But so your ego's now like, hey, use this shit. We have this now, and you have to actually transcend that. You have to transcend the desire to want to use those powers.
Okay, yeah. You know what? You're right. You know what? I get it. But to me, it's
like you have them. You can, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. You know.
I think my greatest talent and like latent talent that was like really fully recognized now, it was my intuition. I think I've always had like a really, really, really strong intuition. I didn't get that because it's kind of hard. It's like what my intuition tells me my intuition is good. Like get the fuck out of here. Like, you know, you start to like really.
You have to use logic. You know.
Yeah. But once I realized like my greatest strength was never my logic. It was always my intuition. It was always my heart that guided me to the right. It maybe not the right decisions at the time, but it always pushed me in the right direction in life. You know, so it's like
pretty much it's simply said, listen to your gut.
Yeah. And I think that in itself is a superpower. That shouldn't be scoffed at. Like that should like actually be taken seriously. Like a strong intuition is literally psychic ability.
It's like using the force.
It's a psychic ability, exactly.
It's like when Darth Vader's standing there and they're like, we have to track the ship with all this machinery, and he's like, they're on Hoth. They're like, we're not just gonna go based on a whim. He's like, they are on Hoth. Like I fucking Darth Vader fucker. You know, like they didn't believe him.
And you know what? I'll say that
he knew. He had a feeling, and he was like, I know where they are. They're on that planet.
Yeah. You're right. No, and I could even put this in the most like logical.
You can use the force.
I could put this in the most logical and pragmatic way for people, right? So what we're talking about is like latent psychic abilities. That's one way to put it. Or you could just say like, you know, you could build stronger instincts. And I'll put it like this. I truly believe a spiritual awakening can best happen when your mind, body, and soul are aligned, like in intention and in will and in health, wellness. So like if you take care of your body and you keep trying to keep an open mind and keep trying to understand and learn new things, and emotionally you keep an open heart. You know, like you try to care for your fellow humans, knowing that we're all ultimately connected. So there's really no point in like hurting other people because we're ultimately hurting ourselves. But like if you get all that, you'll like, and it makes sense logically that it would be easier to be able to tell the future, to be able to predict the future, because like how well can you predict things happening if you're constantly worried about shit, if you're constantly worried about whether or not you're doing the right thing, if you're constantly worried about your health,
well, also if you're worried about it, supposedly the way of, you know, if you want to talk about like The Secret, you know, all those people that talk about that, it's like the way they say it is that like whatever you think and think about most predominantly, whether it's negative or positive, the universe takes that as this is what you want to experience. So the more you worry, you create a domino effect to where the more you worry, things you worry about start fucking happening. Yeah.
And you know what? And this is what I love to do. I like to talk about this shit in a way, the pragmatic way, where even skeptics could like take it seriously. So I'll put it like this. Yeah, all of our deepest wills and like the shit we ultimately care about, really actually care about. That's really what's going to manifest. If we care about conflict, we're going to manifest conflict. If we care about, wellness, we're going to manifest wellness.
Well, if you care about avoiding conflict, conflict's going to happen to you because you're thinking.
Because you're caring. Because that's care.
That's
still care
about it.
Okay, so the clearly the key to the force, the juice that runs the force, and being able to manipulate the force and use the force as a tool, is care. I shit you not, and it sounds corny as fuck, but care is literally the secret. You use willful care, and you don't even have to use it for good things. You could do this for evil things. Like, you could choose to care about something, willfully make bad things happen, because you fucking gave a shit about it. Like, this is the power of, like, care. I think, like, it shouldn't be understated. And this is where I think, like, the real power comes into play. When you understand that, you finally have the key to actually unlocking anything you want to happen. You just have to apply care. Because if you apply care, then you'll transcend all your limitations. You'll transcend your physical limitations, your monetary limitations, your current any limitation. You'll ultimately, like, free yourself from that and, like, break through if you seriously care. That's why I'd say, it's powerful to start in threes, like care for your mind, body, and soul. And I think that has to do with, like, a lot of the sacred geometry shit of, like, ancient wisdom. I don't know, for some reason, I think threes are like a very powerful pattern to, like, apply will to. And that's what our, like I said, like, our reality is most affected by our patterns, right? By our patterns in behavior, our patterns in speech, our patterns in thought, our patterns and emotions. It's all ruled by patterns. So if you willfully change,
like the song Patterns by Simon and Garfunkel.
If you willfully change the patterns, you willfully change your fucking life, man. At first, you got to know your patterns. You got to see your patterns. You got to understand the shit that you keep doing repetitively. And you also have to understand you could change it at any time.
The lesson will be repeated until it's learned.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You will keep experiencing the same fucking shit until you learn the lesson you needed to learn to break out of it.
Which is just, spot patterns. And there's always going to be lessons as long as, I'm alive on this earth. So it's not like I think there's, I'm ever going to be done learning things, Like,
I have to say the hardest lesson for me in life would be heartbreak and heroin addiction. That was the two hardest things so far in my life that have been the hardest thing. And luckily, the heroin addiction thing was so bad that I did eventually break free and got to the point where, because they also say the lesson gets harder every time until you learn the fucking lesson. And that's what opiate addiction was. It got harder every single fucking day for 4 years until eventually I just couldn't take it and broke out of it.
That was
the hardest thing I've did in my life.
There's all sorts of examples of, like, tapping into your higher self to break through and change your reality. Like, I was talking to Mike about this stuff, and, like, the way I used it to describe it to him, like the example I used, I was like, so, I at some point it got to me asking him, I was like, so, like, what would you, if you had to guess, like, what would you say if you had any? What would be your purpose in this world, in this life? And then he brings up skateboarding. And I was like, it's really interesting you say that because, the way I see it, you look at a skateboarder, like a pro skateboarder, you put them in front of a 10 set and they're fixing to do like a 180 tray flip down the whole thing or some shit. It was a very dangerous trick, like if just for this example. And, like, fucking before you do that, everything in your logical mind is telling you no. This is telling you don't fucking do this. Don't do this. This is a bad idea because it is like
if you're trained to know how to do it.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So at first, it's your logical brain that's really holding you back from doing it. It's your logical brain that's saying don't fucking do this. Don't fucking do this. So you have to reach in and tap into that higher self, higher being to say fuck it. I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna fucking do it. You
tell your brain to shut the fuck up for a second.
And then you get
never tell me the odds.
And the more and more you do that, the more you get used to it. Now, I could think of other examples, like athletes, like pro athletes, when they get in.
Once you do it once, you're like, well, it worked that time.
Yep. Yep. So but the tricky part is you don't know what you're doing exactly, and you just tell yourself, it's like, oh, I was just, I was whatever, I was like, I was in the moment.
Yeah.
But if you really identify what that was, where you just, like, you're turning off the cricket in your head, you're turning off that little voice, and you're actually tapping into your best self, your bravest self.
I swear I've only felt that when I was, like, playing in the punk band. Like, I was a different person when I got on stage. Like, this thing came, like, and I was, like, fearless. I was, like, very, like,
your best self.
Yeah, I felt like it was like my best. I was so peaceful afterwards too.
Yeah.
And I'm normally a jittery. You can all see I'm fucking jittery. Look at me. But, like, after a show like that, I'd be like I did what I meant to do in this life.
Yep.
Like, and I can do it again next week maybe, but I did it now and I could die right now. And
Dude,
it's okay.
that's how I felt after. How do you think I felt after I won like first place?
Yeah,
And
no, like,
I was on top of the world. I was like, oh my god.
If somebody shot me on the way home now,
Yeah,
I did the thing.
Yeah. I still like. If
I
anything,
go back to God. I'm like, wow, that was crazy, but I did the fucking thing.
Yeah, I got
So he killed me right afterwards. That was the plan. He's like, yeah.
At least you did the thing.
Yeah, I just had to wait till you did the thing and then just you have another life to live. You're gonna be some bitch in the 1600s now. Okay, it's not linear.
No.
Sorry.
all points of space and time are connected.
Yeah, it's all in the same place actually. You're like, yeah, okay, whatever. I knew about this ahead of time. Let's go back in the simulation.
And then you got to forget it and learn it all over again.
Get it again. Do it again. And you chose to do it. Like it's funny when I didn't ask to be born. It's like, do you know that? You don't remember what happened before this.
Yeah, you feel mighty embarrassed when you take the VR goggles.
As many times as you said that, you get a lashing when you die. You get up there, it's like everyone's laughing. Like, yo, how many times did you say you didn't ask to be born, dude? We were all here when you said it.
I do think though after like you take the goggles off, you're gonna be like, I gotta do that again. Like it's that good. Like
you're like, ooh, that was cool. And like I don't really have, it's not like it's a waste of time because there's no such thing. So I could just do anything indefinitely forever.
I'm God. Fuck it. Like,
I'm God. Why not? I could deal with a couple heartbreaks, a couple broken bones, burning alive in my own apartment.
I already got
I can do it again.
I got 7 billion other games running at the same time.
Yeah, I have so many fucking tabs open right now.
Yeah. Hells yeah.
So you're gonna be so in this life they're gonna tie you down to the ground, grow bamboo seeds underneath you, and they're gonna slowly grow through your body at the age of 29. Yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
I'm game.
Yeah.
I'm fit.
I'm gonna bitch about it while I'm there, but it's gonna be hilarious when I get back.
Damn. That's awesome. See, this is what I'm talking. It's a good feeling to know, like you could say.
When I was at the dentist last, okay, he shot me up twice. I had an infected back tooth, right?
Yeah.
And it hurt so. I was in for an hour. I was in the dentist's office, like I was gonna fucking. If I had a gun, I would shot myself in the head. It was that bad. And he brought me and he's like, yeah, I know it sucks. It goes into your bone, dude. I know. He's a cool hippie guy. He's been a dentist for 30 years and he's fucking awesome. He's like, okay, here we go. Oh, I know that sucked. But you got to do it. Like he's cool. He's like. I talked to him all. I'm like, it must be crazy that like you knowingly have to hurt people to get this work done all the time. He's like, yeah, this is what I do. I'm trying to make it the easiest I can, but some things are gonna hurt. I'm like, we got this. I'm gonna be as cooperative. So he put a second shot in. I'm like, and he's moving it. I'm like, every time I'm like, it still hurts. So he's like, I know. Don't worry, we're not gonna do it yet. We're not gonna do it yet. And like, yeah. And I like almost grab his arm, but I don't. And I'm like, and he's like, okay. Look, it's draining. I know that sucked. It's draining. I'm like, and afterwards, like, I'm like, like I got delirious and started cracking up laughing. Dude, that was like probably I've broken a lot of bones. That was like that was on the 8 like S tier of the pain. But afterwards, I'm like, well, got that experience over. I know what that feels like. And like I swear to God, like I hate watching torture in movies. Right? It upsets me. It makes me want to kill people. I can't. I hate it. But at the same time, somewhere deep down, I watch somebody getting burnt alive or something on like a TV show or something like or a horror movie, and I'm like, oh, I gotta know what that feels like though. It's weird. I don't want to feel. No, who wants to feel? That's obviously one of the worst ways to die. But how bad is it? I need to know. Just like when I was a kid, they're like, drugs are bad, heroin's bad. How bad is it though? I had to find out. Like it's like when they tell you don't. If I'm at work and they're like, okay, here, take this pen, but it's hot. I'm like, I'm impulsive, so I'm like, how hot? Oh, fuck, you're right. And they're like, I just told you it's hot. Why'd you touch it? I'm like, but I needed to know how hot. So if you tell me how painful something's going to be, even though I don't want to feel pain, I want to know how painful it is. So deep down inside, I kind of want to get burnt alive. but I don't. But I want to be able to empathize completely with somebody getting burnt alive. Just like if somebody's going through heroin withdrawals, I could sit there with them and be like, I know exactly what that feels like.
Honestly, I think the real root of that is it's.
I'm not a masochist at all.
I think subconsciously. I think subconsciously you might have like bad feelings towards yourself.
No, but I feel bad for other people that went through it, and I feel like, well, if they went through it, why shouldn't I have to go through it at least once in like infinity? Well, but that means like according to Buddha, even if it's a fictional avatar, Buddha said, like somebody asked him, how long have our souls been reincarnating? And he's like, okay, picture the tallest mountain like on the planet, and every 100 years a bird goes by carrying a piece of cloth in his beak, and that cloth just brushes against the tip of the mountain. Mm-hmm. You've been around for as long as it would take for that mountain to wear down to flat. Yeah. The cloth every 100 years going to like, you know, like that's how long. That's like unfathomable for our minds to comprehend how much time. So, and he also says, you know, every creature, you can be, even the smallest ant has been your mother at least once in some lifetime. So I think I drilled into it. I think about that. I'm like, I'm going to kill this guy. They tell me to kill this cockroach at work. But like, what if that was my mom in a past life or in some other life? And I can't do it. I can't kill bugs. And I don't have any problem with killing an animal. If I'm hungry, I will kill something and eat it. Mm-hmm. I don't think murder is wrong. I think torture is, but I don't think murder is wrong. But I can't just kill something just because it's annoying me. Or like my life needs to be threatened in a way to want to kill something.
You know, right now,
like if I see a spider that it might be poisonous, I might like. Oh, I'm so.
You're saying all these views from the perspective of a person who's constantly in survival mode, but not in like abundance mode. You know,
well,
like
yeah, I have diabetes. I'm poor.
You gotta be willing to do the work to change that reality. Some things you'll not be able to change, but it is worth trying to change the overall picture.
But I also feel you can. A lot of people have. Recordly, like, have been supposedly spontaneously enlightened or been enlightened through pain, through pain and through fear. It can happen in a lot of ways. I don't know how much to believe in Osho, but he wrote a lot of interesting things about different ways to get spontaneously enlightened and having a moment.
No, I don't think. Like I said, it seems spontaneous, but as I said, I look back. And it's like everything that happened in my life, it almost seems like it happened for a reason. Like the group home experience, the relationship I have with my dad, with my grandmother. Yeah, with everybody in my life, basically, I could like actually like look back and be like, holy shit. Like it's like I don't know for sure, but I could very easily be inclined to believe that it all happened specifically to get me to this state. I think so, and I couldn't see any other reason why. I mean, sure, you could believe in just randomness.
No, there's nothing. I don't think anything's random.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about faith, and it's like for the longest time, that's what I never had. I never really had faith in anything because I never really understood what it was really about until like the sword tournament. That was the first time I exercised my faith muscle. I never truly just believed in an outcome, not knowing if it would happen, just believing that it would. And it wasn't even like I had to believe in a God or I believe in a cause or an idea. All I had to believe in was myself. That's all I had to do. And I think that act of faith was so pure because it wasn't like I was having faith in myself for any nefarious or like, you know, materialistic, greedy reason. All I wanted was just the experience of winning. You know, and I believed, I had faith in myself that I could bring myself there. And I think that's a very powerful thing. And I think like in the modern era, like there's less and less opportunities for people to like have that experience.
I actually only during the punk shows when I was I had that type of faith. Like no matter what the crowd was, no matter what I thought, if they were gonna like it or not, I got out there. I'm like, I know this is gonna I'm gonna make some emotional impact.
Yeah.
I know for a fact this is me fully. This is what I am and I'm doing. And like this is like something that's gonna happen, whether like it's gonna happen no matter what. I just know it, kind of feeling. I didn't know it at first though. At first we started it just to fuck with emo kids. Actually, we didn't want to be big.
But another thing is like that sense of knowing that doesn't come from like just some irrational like belief. Like when
I've been in love and thought that I knew.
Yeah, but that's predicated on another person. But when you're in a position where you have to like have complete faith in yourself, like that just taps into something because you're also like you're kind of like bending the rules of like time. You know, you're not just like living. You're fully in the present, knowing that the future is just going to become the present. And it's like you just have faith in your ability to like make that present be exactly what you want it to be. And yeah, I think that's like kind of taps into, again, like abilities. Like, why can people just perform at their best when they think like that? They just do. Because like the cricket's turned off. Because the force that actually holds you back from pushing your limits is your head, is the voice in your head, is your ego. You know, like your ego could tell you you're the best, but even that's gonna hold.
But what
you.
if this goes wrong?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
And like, why do you say that? Even if it would go wrong, why would you think it?
Yeah. So when you
You
can
know-
separate, and then when you all right, so the feeling of separation, I cried. There was a few moments in those days where like I was literally fucking crying like out of nowhere, but I knew why. Because
That's a normal spiritual awakening thing to start crying out of nowhere.
because there was this one point where like, you know, they were saying like I was doing more research on it, and then they were saying you gotta meditate, and I was like, I never really meditated before, but fuck it, I'll try it. So I tried it, and I had some pretty crazy results that I never really had before attempting to it. But one of the things I was inspired by, that I was kind of driving me, was the leaked CIA documents explaining like, you know, the step-by-step methodology and what they, you know, their psychic operatives. Yeah, they had psychic operatives. What they used.
No, yeah, that's definitely recorded. That's actually a fact.
Yeah,
That's not even speculation.
No,
guys.
guys, Google the Gateway Project, and
Well, like that movie, Men Who Stare at Goats.
yeah,
Is based on real shit.
yeah. So, but look, even if you don't believe in like the crazy out there abilities, like certain things like enhanced intuition and maybe a little bit of remote viewing start to make more sense. And when I say like separation of ego, the way it felt, it was like a really emotional ride, because like I remember when I started meditating, and I didn't know what was supposed to happen. What I did know was that something was happening, and I kind of felt like first it all felt like a black, hazy, like cloudy thing. It felt like vague shapes, and I felt like I was like feeling out in the dark, right? And then like I just kept hearing the words like in my head, out of body experience, out of body experience. I wasn't thinking about that, but
Wait, but that's it. Your brain automatically created a mantra.
I think it was just because I heard the words, and maybe.
Yeah, but if you're saying that over, that's a mantra. If you're meditating, out of body experience, out of body experience, out of body experience. That's a mantra. It focuses, instead of your thoughts going, shit, what did I have for lunch today? It stops that, and you do. Sometimes you be like, out of body experience, out of body experience. You know, fucking Samantha was really a bitch today at work.
Yeah.
Out of body experience, and it focuses you back in on just one thing so you can meditate. That's a common
So what ended
thing
up
to
happening,
use.
like what I was envisioning in my head, it's almost like I was like looking. Imagine like you had a clone of me, right? Like I was like, it's almost like I was staring really close into my own back, right, and all that shit. And that's what I just kind of started like, you know, identifying, you know, like acknowledging. I was acknowledging that shadow, or like that specter, that silhouette of me. And then, you know, once I understood what it was, I was like, okay, that's the thinker. That's the one who's making the thoughts. That's the one where the thoughts come from. And then I started like reflecting on that, like on what the thinker was, on what it felt like to think I was the thinker, and the kind of thoughts that the thinker would think. And I remembered like all the shittiest fucking things that it like made me think about at the worst moments. And I got really upset. I got really angry at it. So I screamed. I was like, fuck you. You don't know shit. You know, like, and then I cried. And because like, you know, like when I yelled at it, I felt.
Fuck you, Ivan. What the fuck?
No, I cried. And then like, because then it became clear to me that it wasn't the enemy. That was just there to keep me safe.
It's like the child.
And
You're the father, and that's the child.
And the only
you have to guide it.
Exactly. And the only reason why it put me through so much shit was because it only knew what it knew. It only knew what happened to it. It didn't know what I knew. It didn't know the golden rules. It didn't know like, you know, like the actual truth behind shit. Like it was so easily misled constantly, and I got so frustrated. But it vaporized once it reacted from my anger. I was like, oh, okay, I got to be nice to it. We got to work together. So that's when like I think that's when integration happened for me, and I was like, I get it now. It's not about like stopping the ego or destroying the ego. It's about integrating with the ego.
It has to be there anyway.
When you integrate, it's like, see, it's like
It can be tempered.
Normally, there's two ends of the brain, right? Moving it like when one goes up, one goes down, right? So like imagine where it's in a state where both move up and down at the same time. That's like synchronicity, synchronicity, and that's like I think integration.
You should try to go to one of those places in Chinatown where they take the aura picture. They can tell you where like your chakras are going and shit.
I don't know. I don't see. That's another thing. I don't really think like I have any kind of crazy like conspicuous abilities, like like being able to see the future or being able to see people's aura, which maybe some people could do. I definitely can't do that, but I do think
They have
is
cameras that do it.
what I think is my
Take a picture.
I think my ability was always like was just intuition. I just have intuition. Like I can't explain it, but
Well, I guess everyone has intuition, but they don't listen to it.
yeah, you're
There's
right.
self-doubt a lot,
You're right.
Your
Right.
brain can override that.
But if your intuition happens to be really strong, then it's gonna eventually like find that it could shove your brain aside, like, and that's a problem for some people.
I think he gets older as you get older. Just like Yoda said, like Luke's too old. You must unlearn what you have learned. If he was starting as a fucking 5-year-old, there was not much he had to unlearn.
True.
To use the Force, you have to unlearn what you have learned. That's why George Lucas really did take all the major Eastern religions and make that. Like he was really like just like me. He was really into theology. The idea of the Force, like even though it's a movie, it's a Star Wars movie. Yeah, it's a science fiction American fucking pop movie, right? It still has spiritual depth. I think the Force is a very intriguing and interesting idea. I think the Force, the idea and the Jedi philosophy makes more sense than most major religions on the planet. Okay, I think it's more accurate in a way. You die, you go back to the Force. Your body's here. If you want to project your image to somebody else, who you were, you can meditate enough and learn how to learn a power that you could come back as a quote unquote Force ghost. But you're still one with the Force, but now you're coming back. Okay, I'm going to pretend to be Obi-Wan right now just so I can tell Luke, like, don't get on that fucking ship. Or, like, do this. Or, when you go to meet Vader. But, like, so I believe that can be ghosts. What do you think about ghosts? So, like, you go back to the source, right? And you can be reincarnated. But what do you think an apparition is? Where you maintain almost, like, in a weird form, your physical form, but in ethereal way.
Well, I've never honestly I've never really seen it or understood it myself because I've never experienced any.
Do you think it's real? Do you think there's ghosts?
I think
Your consciousness your body's dead, but your consciousness decides to form itself in a way to kind of be in limbo in between both of dimensions, so you can kind of try to influence in a small way what's going on in that physical world still. Like that your energy is still so attached to something that it doesn't let you completely go back to source, even though
Maybe.
your body's dead.
maybe. I mean, it is.
Or you were kind of so fucked up, and something happened to where you haven't resolved it.
Well, okay, so I think another theory for that there's already it's actually a thing called soul contracts, where like in different lifetimes, you may have had like a unfinished business, or maybe it's like you cared for somebody on a spiritual level, like a twin flame or something, or someone in your soul pod, as they put it, and you make an agreement, a contract, saying once we go into this incarnation, we're going to meet up and we're going to do this, and then we could resolve it or not resolve it, just experience this, like. So that's why I don't know if I believe in soul contracts, but it was an interesting thing. It was an.
Well, they
interesting
say a
idea.
lot of soulmates end up in heartbreaks because the soulmate. People think of soulmate. Oh, you're gonna be completely happy with this person the rest of your life. A lot of
No.
soulmates are lessons. Okay,
Soul contracts. Yeah.
I'm gonna be with you for 2 years, and you're gonna fucking ruin me, and I'm gonna learn something from that, and
Yep.
that's the contract.
Then we'll
And
start-
then
then
maybe
we'll-
next time I'll be the douche. I'll be the fucking narcissist that fucking dumps you,
Yeah.
or. But I don't know. It's weird to think if I went back to the other side, I don't know if I'd come back. If I came as some ghost as Brendan, I would just do it to be silly, I think. But also, I'm speaking from. I think I'm Brendan right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not the higher self right now speaking.
Mm-hmm.
The higher self is just chilling somewhere, letting me do my thing.
No, I
It's waiting. It's waiting for whatever. It's just chilling. Well, okay, let's see. What's gonna happen. The higher self doesn't give. I could die, and that it can do whatever.
I
it wants.
thought about that. I thought about that too. It did feel like it did kind of give me the same vibe as like a trip on a psychedelic, where I'm like, is this gonna go away? I don't know if I want it to go away. But then like I realized.
Oh, don't get attached to it.
No. I'm saying it's not like that. It's not like that at all, because it's not something that it's like it's not for me. It's not even for just me. It's not something that's just, exclusive to me. It's literally part of the human experience. And like, but the significant individual thing about it is like, you understand your service. Like, what is it that you're supposed to be doing here? You really just want to get caught in like material loops and just like trying to gain and lose and gain and lose? Is that really all you want to do? Just like constantly flip for the rest of your life? Or do you want to like do something with your newfound understanding that we're all connected? And then I said, all right, I want to give people the cheat codes. I want to show people how loosely the fabric of our reality is actually.
Whatever you want to people, if they're not ready for that,
Well, can you talk into the mic?
If they're not ready for it, they're not going to hear it.
Yeah, but I know that. So
you can post and talk to people as much as you want.
Yeah, but my concern isn't to convince people.
You're talking to an ego, and behind that ego is a consciousness that's like, dude, I am here because this ego is not supposed to awaken yet. It's supposed to go through this,
dude.
This,
my
and that.
concern
so
is
whatever you say to
my
me,
concern
my ego's gonna fucking ignore.
Yeah, but you're misconstruing my intention. My intention isn't to like convince people. Because I could be dead tomorrow.
Just putting it out there.
Literally just putting it out. I think if I just put it out there,
but
that's
you think
fine.
about, like, everyone, like, from Buddha to Krishna to Ram Dass to fucking Osho have been putting it out there, and it's a very small. Even Osho said, like, listen, if in 1,000 years one single person becomes enlightened, my work has been done. Like, he was like, nobody's gonna actually get this. He's like, I'm writing these books. You're gonna read them. It's interesting to your mind, but most of you are not going to get anything from this.
Okay, look, I'm not even talking about enlightenment. I don't even know if I like actually like think that's the case. But here, what I do know is that
it's something.
There's a state,
some type of
and I do
change.
think that there are cheat codes, and I think a part of I'm not trying to even convince people of anything, of any kind of spiritual being. But I will tell them, like, because even now science is now backing it up, like that our reality doesn't just end at it's like molecular structure and matter. It's literally.
What was that one thing in the beginning of the Incubus song that, everything you can smell, see, taste, hear, and touch is less than 1% of reality?
Yeah, that's true. That's literally physically, like, actually true. That's like if you look at the space between the atoms, like, yeah, barely any of it's actually solid.
Most of it's empty.
Yeah, it's all energy. It's all fucking energy. And like, I think if more people
just learning how dark energy works in the universe.
But I think
we're
if people
confused as fuck about it.
If more people understood that, and this is where I think like numerology comes into play. I think like numbers are like actually a very, very serious method of programming reality from the individual, from the user end. Like I think there's really significant ways you could use numbers to, like, literally conscious application of numbers and certain patterns to be able to like manifest a lot faster. You know how like, like things like The Secret, whatever, they would focus on like emotional intentions and putting it out there. This is like an actual logical, like hard science backed thing. Like we're talking about a value-based system. We're not talking about like use your good feels to power a good outcome. We're literally talking about ways. What I think it is both are just like they both are missing one half of the picture. I think yes, into good like emotions, the right emotional output and intent is key, and literally in programming reality. I'm not just speaking in like a fucking abstract way. I'm speaking literally. Like if you want to change your surroundings in any way, shape, or form, it has to start with care. If you're apathetic about it, nothing's gonna happen. Nothing.
I used something crazy. So my mom, got into a lot of spiritual things later on in life, and so I guess The Secret was a thing at the time. All these different spiritual teachers were coming out at the time, and I would go into the bathroom, and they'd be like a sticker or a piece of paper magneted or something to like put on the mirror with like a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
And like they were trying to manifest money. So every time they went, there was a smiley face with a big stack of money on the mirror, almost like trying to manifest. But like I was thinking, I was like taking a piss. I'm like, by putting that there, aren't you indeliberately putting out the energy to the universe that you don't have enough money? That's why you're doing this. Therefore, kind of negating this, because you're when you're putting the sticker up, you're thinking, I don't have enough money, so I need to put this sticker up to manifest money.
Yeah, but
so you're actually putting the wrong information out into the universe.
No, I think that's subjective. For a different person, it could easily.
To have money, you have to be like, you have to think, I have money.
Yeah, but
not I don't have money.
Yeah, but for some people, it's like, you know, that's a subjective thing. Like some people could just literally say, if I see the imagery of money, then that's just gonna put me in the state where I have money. You know, like.
Okay, so maybe it works differently mentally with some people.
Yeah.
Emotionally. Okay, maybe.
But numbers, back to numbers. I think numbers are significant, and I don't think it's like just in a sense of like use math to solve problems. Like no, I mean like in a much more visceral application, like where I say the power of three. I think we talked about this. Threes are I think three is like the sacred key to like the quantum.
3 is the magic number.
369, because like divisions of
69.
No, I'm saying 3,
Nice.
6, 3, 6, and 9. Like. There's like a whole documentary how Tesla like was obsessed with these numbers as like the infinity code to get it into like tapping into like the secrets of the universe. It was all true shit, by the way.
Oh.
So like yeah, so and I said, and I noticed this because I even acknowledged immediately. I was like, I only got here because of mind, body, and soul. I only got here once those three elements clicked into place. It was always in threes. You know, you look at like the Holy Trinity. You look at anything that transcends are like limitations. It usually happens in threes. But everything that actually limits us and ties us to the physical world is all duality. You know, everything happens in twos in our physical projection of reality. But when you do things in threes, that's when you see things like kind of break through the confines of reality.
It's not gray now. It's not gray now. It's not
I mean, look at triangles, right?
It's not opposing good or bad, dark or light. But everything in this universe,
it's transaction. Yeah, it's always
but
transitioning.
Also, everything in our physical world is opposites, meeting at a certain.
And the only movement between opposites. It's literally the movement between
life
opposites.
works because there's enough cold and enough heat to meet in the middle somewhere, and we can live on a planet.
No, it's not static. There's energy that transfers our reality.
Dynamic?
Yes, it's all powered by dynamic. Nothing's really static. The only constant is change.
Oh yes.
So yes, it is duality. But what really generates the whole reality experience is the fact that everything's constantly moving back and forth from one end to the other.
You down to do a shroom trip sometime soon? I need to do that for my mental health.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always helped. It always set me on a different path. It always helped. You know, it wasn't bad until I got into bad drugs, and then I didn't do any psychedelics because I was addicted to drugs that release. I don't count shrooms as a drug.
They're called
a drug
aesthetics.
to me is something that instantly feels good and releases dopamine, and I can control it. I can't control the shrooms. I don't know what they're going to do once they're in my body. They decide now. I'm pretty much giving them my life and saying, do what you fucking need to do, man. I am fucked. That's what shrooms is to me. It's not if I take this drink right now, I'm immediately going to feel less anxious. If I snort this line of coke, I'm going to immediately feel better about myself. It's not like that. It's not a drug. It doesn't make you feel good. It might make you feel like shit because that's what you need to feel at that moment. You know, It's an adventurous thing because you're not doing it for pleasure. You're really doing it for a certain function.
Your exploration.
I know people who have done it for the first time I did it. I did do it for pleasure, and it turned out that's not what it was. I thought I was just gonna feel like I was really high on weed.
No, you idiot.
And oh boy, and I ate half the bag, and something inside me went, finish the bag, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And it was amazing though. I believe in God afterwards. You know, like I was an atheist. I was so into conspiracy theory. The government made up religion so they can control us. And I'm like, okay, all the religions are pointing to something that you can't see. It's like the Buddhist analogy is like trying to teach somebody what God is or enlightenment. I'm pointing at the moon, but you can only face and look at my finger. So you're seeing the finger pointing in that direction, but you're not looking at what it's pointing at because you can't. You're not able to.
You know what I see? I see religion as like a baby drowning in some stank ass bathwater.
Why?
What?
Why?
You never heard the term throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Well, that had to do because the baby was always the last human you put in the bath back in the day. So the adults would all take a bath, and by that you didn't change the water. People didn't have what we have now. So by the end of it, the bath water was like getting brown.
Yeah.
And the last thing to wash was the baby after everyone else is clean. And I guess maybe somewhere down the line in real life, somebody accidentally did really throw the baby out with the bed. Like, okay, I'm taking a breath. Holy shit, fucking Alex was in there. You know, now we'd have to go in the hole and fucking find him, or it died. That's where that term had to come from. It's hilarious. That's horrible at the same time. Multiple people, since the water was so murky, hey, did you turn off the fireplace? Oh, okay, give me a second. And just ran over there, forgot about the baby in there. It was like, and then they were like, okay, time to toss the fucking water that 7 or 8 of us just bathed in into the backyard, and the baby's like, Brah! And you're like, holy shit, what did I do?
Whatever. What's the baby gonna be missing, really? The baby's going back to the source.
It's going back to God.
Yep.
We need to believe in this, or we will hate ourselves.
No, it's not that easy. I think even if you're a murderer, even if you're like a racist, even if you're a rapist, like I think you still go back to the source too. Like I think that's a part of it. It's a part of the game. Like some of us do. Like I think like some like incarnations do, like are sent to do specifically to do bad shit, so they could experience doing bad shit.
Oh yeah, you die, you go back to the source. Okay, how do you feel about
being a murderer?
You're going back to, you're gonna be a Nazi in like Germany, and you're gonna kill like a lot of. Well, somebody got to do it. Okay, man.
Yeah.
All right. You get 5 points. You can spend them on the heaven planet later on. But, like, even Hinduism, I love Hinduism because like supposedly we're on this middle fucking ground on Earth in Hinduism, but there is, instead of like a heaven, a definite forever heaven, a definite forever hell like Christianity, in Hinduism, there are levels of different planets. Like supposedly Mercury has life, but it's not carbon based.
Oh.
So you can die and be reincarnated as a different type of being, and it's like there's like it's like heavenly planets. You live like thousands of years. It's just fucking pleasure, but you're spending your karma points. The main goal is to break free and go to Krishna Loka, which is becoming part of Krishna, which is God.
The source.
The source. But you end up spending your karma points, and you have to go back here. And if you fuck up here, you go to one of the hellish planets where you suffer. And then this karma gets replenished. Okay, your credit's good, okay? You're going back to Earth. You can build credit again, and pretty much you can go to one of the heavenly planets. And, like, it's just, like, pleasurable. But you're not supposed, like, it's not, you don't want to meditate or get closer to God on those planets because you're so happy that you don't give a shit. Here, we have just enough suffering to where you're like, when does it end? Is there something bigger? Because when you're on heavenly planets, you're like, oh, it feels like a fucking 24/7 blowjob, you know? So you're not thinking about, like, maybe I should pray and, like, maybe seek God or something bigger. So you're like, oh, fuck, yes, the whole time. Basically, that's how they explain it in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what it seems like to me. So you have to bypass that, like, yeah, I fucking earned this shit. I was so fucking nice. I helped that old lady. And now it feels like a fucking 1,000-year orgasm.
I donated my organs.
Yeah, you have like a couple thousand years of just orgasmic bliss and fucking whatever shit. But it's still material in a way.
It is.
Any type of pleasure. Why would you need pleasure if you were if you were already whole? Every type of pleasure is like a filling something up. That's what it feels like to me. As somebody who's a drug addict, somebody
I'm definitely
indulges in addictions.
I'm definitely not that ascended because I'm still tying my purpose to the material world. I'm still tying my purpose to the people that I share this planet with, you know, like, because that's ultimately like what I enjoy the most about life. I realize it's my connections with my fellow humans. And some people piss me off. I wish some people would just never ever talk to me ever, but I get that. They're just there in their incarnations, and you know, they haven't fully realized it's the same shit yet. You know, that's all good. Everyone's got their own journey. I can't seek to do them harm because I'll just be ultimately harming myself. You know, like, so I just gotta.
Or if you imagine, I want to think about this. Like, say if I fuck with somebody so bad and hurt them really, like, it's not linear, right? So you can go anywhere. What if, say, somebody broke my heart, and we get to go back into another life where it's the same timeline, but your souls or consciousness are in the opposite bodies.
What if,
and now you're the fucking girlfriend and they're the boyfriend, and it's the same time, same thing, but you get to experience, like, it's the same thing happens, but you experience that side.
Yeah, you get to be that person.
Yeah. and you can't, like, blame them anymore.
Because you understand exactly.
Yeah,
what
like, you know, like, you can't. If you lived it, you did it. You did it for a fucking reason, didn't you? But it's so hard. Thinking like that, I'm like, then shouldn't I understand if somebody did that to me? that to them, that was the right thing to do, obviously. And there's no way if I lived as them and did that to me that I could think like they are a piece of shit.
No, you'd understand they're all the same.
It's all they had their own reasons for it, just like I had my own reasons for hurting the people at the time I did. I do feel bad though, and then you would also be them doing that to you, but also feeling bad about it and be like, oh, they did this, and at the same time they were conflicted and they felt bad and they fucking hated themselves for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
You get through their whole life. Like I think like you should have to if you had any interaction with everyone.
Yeah,
you probably had to also go back around the fucking slide,
live through their shit,
and go through the okay. Let's see let's live their life now in
go down that
conjunction
pipe.
with me.
Yeah.
Like in the next life, my mom is going to just go back into 1970 something, be reborn, and they're gonna switch places. And one's gonna be fucking Carrie, one's gonna be Bruce.
Yep.
Or some shit like that. You have to okay. Let's see this from the other angle.
Next life,
that makes sense.
Next life, you're like a billionaire, whatever, in like the early 2000s.
And you spit on a homeless dude one day, and the next life, you're that homeless dude. And you still don't feel bad for the billionaire because you lived his fucking life. There's no way you lived the whole life. Like I'm living a life right now. I probably fucked with somebody else, and I was their shoes the last time, and now I'm here. How am I gonna? I'm like, oh, I know exactly why I did that. Oh shit.
But okay, so here's
I was wrong, but I know why I did it. I'm sorry. I feel bad about it, but
you shouldn't.
I can't.
You shouldn't feel. So now that you could leave like shame behind, like that's when you start to like think about like having actual fun in this incarnation of life. Like
that's the entail of the shroom trip. I always have the part. It's like 2 hours of hell and breaking down me, and then like 3 hours of like, holy shit. Yeah. And then the next 2 hours are like, okay, you got your lessons. Go play. I'm like, you sure? High yourself? Like, yeah, go play. Go have some fun. I'm like, you earned it. I'm like, and I'm like, everything's like fucking gorgeous and beautiful. It lets me like enjoy a couple of hours of like letting the ego frolic. It's like the ego's now my little child and I'm the father. And I'm like, go ahead, Brendan. Go ahead. Have a little fun. You had to break you down. I know it was fucking horrifying, but come on. I get it, Dad. All right. Go. It's like I'm my own dad at that point, and like, I let the kid run around the playground for a little bit before the trip ends.
Yeah.
I need another shroom trip really bad, Ben.
You should get it if you feel you need it, but then
I do.
But then
I'm
really
gonna start to lose it again.
You got to make it. You got to make this one
melancholy.
You got to make this one worth it.
I need a setting this time.
I could get you shrooms.
I'm getting older.
I could get you shrooms.
I know. I can get anyway. Yeah, shrooms is not hard to find.
Okay, so all right, but seriously, back to cheat codes. This is what I really want to reiterate.
Okay.
I really do think that my method of like interacting with like, I don't know, you call it quantum manipulation, you could call it manifestation, you could call it psychic abilities, whatever. My method of manifestation is just adding care plus the power of 3: mind, body, and soul. If you apply care to your mind, body, and soul and focus it on 3s and watch as those 3 branches branch off into their own thing and turns into 6 and 9, like I think you could, that's really how you build like a very powerful experience for your life,
I feel like the stream trip might help you if I wanted to actually do this, as you say, organically, right? So,
no, I'm not.
But I feel like the shroom trip is a good way sometimes to initiate the idea of it and then start.
I'm not telling you
to
not
do it on your
own. Dude, I'm
own.
not telling you not to do shrooms. Like I said, if you feel your body needs it, then you gotta honor your body's feelings. You
need help sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And you're looking to the right kind of help for once. You're not looking.
I'm not just trying to seek pleasure. I know when I do it, I'm gonna go through hell for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
I'm going to it's gonna be worse than death. I'm gonna think I'm going to die.
I think it's gonna be awesome? I think when you do it, you're gonna be expecting the worst, but you're gonna be like, holy shit, I'm doing
Maybe
this.
Because whenever I expect the best, it's the worst, and when I expect the worst, it's like I'm immediately in heaven. Like what? Dude, I didn't have to go through all this shit.
Yo,
but no, I know I have a lot of shit to shed, and I know that I'm not clear. It's going to break me down.
That's what happened.
And I accept it.
That's what happened for me. That's what happened for me during the sword tournament.
I hate when people are afraid to take psychedelics. I'm like, dude. you're already crazy. That's going to make you sane. You're afraid of being sane.
Yeah.
That's what you are. Like, people are like, oh, no, man, I have anxiety and stuff. My thoughts are crazy. I'm like, really? Are you that egotistical that you think that your thoughts are so much fucking crazier than everyone else's? That we don't all have crazy fucking dreams and crazy thoughts that are like, what the fuck is my brain doing right now? We all fucking do. You're not special.
That's true.
I have mental illnesses. Yeah, doesn't fucking everyone now? It's like, the psychedelic is going to make you fucking sane. You're crazy. You think that this is real. You're wandering around like, here's the fucking bus. Like, you're crazy.
Yeah, it's psycho world.
It needs to fucking destroy that. And your ego's gonna fight it. And as long as you fight it, it's gonna hurt more and more and break you down to a point where you're in fetal position. Like, I don't know anything.
I've seen that happen to people.
I love that part, because when you finally admit you don't know shit and everything is wrong, you're wrong about everything. You're like, but gravity doesn't exist. You're just bullshit. But my mom, it's like, your mom's like, nothing. Everyone's gonna die. And it's like, and finally you just like, and you just give up. You give up. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna die.
Surrender.
And you
surrender
it takes a while, because when I first surrendered, it happened like automatically, right? But then I had the idea of like, okay, as long as I surrender, when I take the trip and it does that to me, if I surrender, it'll stop. But the very idea of me thinking, I surrender, make this stop now, was not surrendering. I was begging for it to stop. And it was like, nope, you can't trick us. We're the shrooms.
With the shrooms.
You're only saying you want to surrender because you want us to stop this. And no, you're in for it. We're going to do what we got to do. But I surrender. It's like, no, you didn't surrender because you're asking to surrender. You're surrendered once you stop surrendering, actually. You're trying really hard to surrender right now, buddy. You know, it's like, and it's like, I don't even surrender. And then finally I came to, whatever, do whatever you want. This can happen forever. I can die right here.
Yes.
I can fucking die right here.
Surrender.
I can suffer for infinity. I have to come to terms with that shit. And it's like,
Come down, buddy. Like, I'm sorry.
like, everyone thinks you're crazy, but you just fucking broke free of everything. You are now a sane fucking being. And you're like, no shit. And you're just like, you're free. It's so fucking beautiful. I don't see why that could be bad. Crazy that's illegal. It's probably illegal because it's like,
well, think about it this way.
it breaks you
If
out.
everyone has that experience, how many people are going to be stressed about going to their jobs, about shopping for clothes, about buying, shit? Like,
yeah, that's like, no, but you could still dabble in life. That's the thing. That they call that disattached but fully engaged, because you realize, even though you're not attached to all the things that you're supposed to supposedly do in this life, now you're like,
you become a master.
I could do it anyway, though.
And
I don't have to, but I'm going to do it. So now, instead of thinking, when you after a shroom trip, when you go back to work, it's not like, oh, I got to go back to fucking work. It's like, I guess I'm going to do what Brendan's supposed to do and go to work. And it's not serious anymore. You're not taking life seriously. It's a game now. You realize it's a game. You're still playing the game, but you're not affected by it. So now, like, if I was playing a game and if my character died, I thought that's me and I'm dead, it's gonna suck, and I'm gonna play like shit, because I'm like, I'm not even gonna fucking swing. If I was playing Skyrim and I thought that thing was me, and that's like, I get hit a lot in games. Would I want to get hit if I thought it was me? No, right? So, but if I zoned out and I'm like, oh, well, I thought I was the fucking character, and now I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game. I'm still playing it. I'm doing better now, even though I'm not attached to the outcome. That's the most beautiful feeling. Just that it's so peaceful to be able to be in life. But that only lasts maybe a couple weeks after a shroom trip. And eventually you wake up yourself, you go, fucking goddamn it.
Nah.
And you fucking thinking about your ex or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then you end up,
That's
you
why.
get sucked back into the ego.
What you got to do is you got to...
The shroom trip wasn't meant to...
Well, no.
completely
Slow down.
enlighten you.
Pump the brakes. Let's go back to what you were saying. What really brought you back into your patterns were your attachments. It wasn't just your ego, it was your ego attachments.
Yes, that's ego.
So then you got to break your attachments. Then your ego won't have anything to pull you back with.
But how can such a dynamic, fucking crazy event like a shroom trip like that, like a heavy shroom trip, break you completely and you see infinity, and then you forget again, and you go back into this? So you broke all your attachments, in those couple of hours. It was like 50 years of meditating crammed into a 3-hour fucking like epiphany. And it lasts and it lingers for a little bit, and then it fades away, and you go back to like being the same, the sticky you again. That not free. You're Brendan again. You're Ivan again. You're Chris again. You're whoever you think you are again, and now everything's serious again, and it fades away.
Well, this is what
unless
this
you
is,
trip.
you know what
But
helps.
that means you have to do
you know
it
what
on
helps?
your own.
Your sense of service when you actually understand your purpose. See, what keeps you really there?
You can't keep the epiphany from a shroom.
Because shrooms
you had a
doesn't, because
glimpse.
shrooms gives you the epiphany or whatever. It doesn't give you the purpose. It doesn't give you the sense of like, this is what I have to do in this world. Like I have to show more people this. It's not that. It's not.
You still have to do the journey on your own.
Yeah, I'm just saying like that's the key element it's missing. And I think the reason why is because the shroom trip has like a lot of the elements. It has the emotional alignment, it has the bodily pleasure feeling, and it has that kind of like just dissociated enough. But what it does is there's so much like hallucinations and like violent imagery going on, is that distracts you from that state.
I didn't see them as hallucinations. That shit was more real than real.
I mean, not hallucinations. It's just like the
I didn't have like fake hallucinations. I've had hallucinations when I was on heroin and cocaine.
I'm saying the visual effect. The visual effect is so powerful that kind of detracts you from like that ascended state. You know, like
I didn't get much visuals. Only in the first when it was kicking in. Before like everything became more real. But like at first, like the only like visuals I've had was when I was in the studio with on the wall started everything was wavy and wobbling, which it seemed like a normal. It seemed like okay, they're always moving, but we don't see it. You know, because we're living in this bullshit. Reality. It's fake. It's like virtual reality pretty much, and everything's wavy and alive. And I'm in the studio, and then there's all these people around me because we were supposed to do a practice, but they invited a bunch of girls and people to like hang out and do like a mini show with hyenas, and I was like on an eighth of mushroom, just like curled up and fetal on the floor, and there's just legs around me. I'm like, and they have the walls like. And I'm like, and I start freaking out. So I put my fucking hands over my eyes, and all of a sudden I never really looked at like Hindu shit, but I saw like the 6 fucking arm fucking like thing that was like, it was like, wow, 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 and it was like killing me, and I'm like, and I finally pulled, and all of a sudden like Mark looks at me, and he's like, he has his guitar in his hand, he's like, can you sing right now? I'm like, no. But that's not what happened. It controlled me and went, yes. And I'm like, why did I say that? And I got up, and it was amazing. I did sing well. But they like, dude, you sang fucking amazing. But there was a lot of moments where you just went, and you were just like blissed out or something. Like you're like I'm just leaving now, you know. But it was a crazy experience for me. But that's why I have that shirt with Kali. It's like the goddess, like a Hindu goddess of like it's like death, but it's merciful. It's not like it looks evil to like the human eye, but it's killing you to free you. Just like Krishna talking to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, the whole Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna is this amazing warrior and archer, and his brother Krishna is actually God, but he's pretending to be Krishna. And the whole thing is this war between families in India back in the day, like way before BC, like 5,000 years before that. And supposedly they have like arrows, they can sing a certain note, and it goes where they want it to go. Like they have like sacred like vowels and shit. And so he's like, I can't kill my family members. I'm not gonna do it. I'm spiritual man. I'm not gonna do this. It's not right. And Krishna, which is he thinks is just his brother, finally reveals himself. Like I'm God. Listen, before this happens, ask me every question you can ever ask, and this is for the future of humanity. And it'll be put in the book, and it's very poetic. And he's talking about as like you're not killing them. They're not. It's not. There's no such fucking thing. You're freeing them from this fucking shitty life. Like, I'm God. I'm telling you this is cool. Pretty much the whole book is, I'm God. Dude, this is fine. That's the whole premise of the book. It's very long, but like it's fucking crazy. They even have like this the Hamarada. I don't think what it was fucking called, but supposedly this like boomerang thing that fucking hits and it sounds like a nuclear bomb, and it just a mushroom cloud just fire and just spreads and destroys everything around it until God is like, okay, turn it off, and it just goes back. Like, it's a crazy book. It's a crazy, like one of my favorite fucking religious books because the Bhagavad Gita is full of wild shit. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, they explain the different dimensions, different planets. They say that there are the human. This was written 6,000 years before the Bible.
I kind of don't like committing to like learning of, like I feel like it's so comfortable in a place where I'm so uneducated. I'm so ignorant of like theology, of like spiritual practices and shit, of like shamanistic teaching. But the fact that I came to this conclusion is like it's incredible to me. It's like it's wondrous. I'm like, holy shit. Because I feel like if anything, I'll be the last person in the fucking world to ever come to any belief in anything like a higher power.
I'd like to watch it with you, but like there's a lot of good YouTube videos with Ram Dass. It's really good.
All right. It's cool. Anyway, yeah, we are past the time anyway. We could just about wrap this up.
I guess so, if you want to.
Yeah. There's always. There's also an episode next weekend if you're down to do it with us.
Yeah. All right, I actually have off the next 6 days after tomorrow.
All right. I think it'll be the 4th of July next weekend though, right?
Yeah.
Damn, that's something.
My fucking PTSD Egyptian dog's gonna fucking lose his mind. If it starts raining even a couple of drops, we have to put a diaper on him, and he runs into the tub and he starts shaking and howling.
Just give him like a Xanax.
We do give him CBD sometimes.
Does it calm him down?
It does. CBD seems to work on dogs like THC. Like if I took CBD gummies, I would be like, I don't feel nothing. But if you give it to a dog, they're like, Mom. Like it affects their brains differently. Jesus. So CBD is like weed to them.
All right. Well, I'll take some puppy weed gummies. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.